From the KDLM studios in Detroit Lakes, it's Hodge Podge with Carol McCarthy, presented by Partnership for Health, and now airing on TV3.
My next guest in the studio is Pat Peterman from the Boys and Girls Club of Detroit Lakes. Good morning, Patrick.
Happy April Fool's Day.
Yes, it is. So we're into a new month and another month along in the big construction project up on the hill. And how are we going? How are we doing on that?
Things are going well. We are very excited to be heading into spring, of course, get through this cold weather and this snowy weather. Things have gone very well with construction. Going by this morning, they are on the west side of the building putting up the siding. I believe this week the siding should almost be completely done. They're also pouring concrete on the inside. That should be done by early next week. Plumbers, electricians are in there doing their thing. So probably after the next 2 weeks, there'll be lots of vehicles up there because all them guys can now get inside and do their thing.
Okay.
Walls are going up. They got the west side done already. I know where my office is at. I can stand in the middle of it and see how it's going to look. And so it's exciting. Lots of good things going on up there. And we're excited to hopefully, what they're telling us is they'll be done with construction by mid to late July,
really?
Later than August 1st.
Okay. So are they ahead of schedule or are they right on?
They are right on.
Okay.
They are right on. Part of the process was to stay on schedule this winter, and with the nasty weather we had to put heat into that building.
Right.
So that they could keep working. There would have been days they could not have done anything, probably weeks, if we wouldn't have heated that in there. So we heated that building, and they were able to stay on schedule.
Great. So things are moving forward with the new building at the Boys and Girls Club of Detroit Lakes on Crovershire Park Hill. And things are on, so July or August it will be complete, and then you're looking to move in September or open it up in September.
Well, we're on a timeline with the school district opening August 28th. So our challenge is we want to move in the month of August. So our summer program is going to be shortened this year. We'll just go up to July 30th. I believe we're going to start a week earlier than the June 3rd we anticipate. I think we're going to start the 28th, if I'm not mistaken, that last Wednesday in May, just so that we can accommodate parents better and families and the kids. But we'll go from the 28th until July 30th. We'll shut her down out at the church. We'll then do a Wee Fest and our camper raffle and the VIP beverage and food. Where we have to find 200 volunteers. So if anybody's interested, get a hold of us.
Okay.
So we're excited about that. So once that's over on October 3rd, we can move in that month of August.
Okay.
Right now, we're scheduling August 22nd as our big ribbon cutting day.
Okay.
And then August 28th, we'll open for kids, same day that school starts.
Sounds great. So you've got staff in place for the big opening and for the summer?
For the summer, we do. It's going to be a challenge for the fall because lots of our summer people who are now getting to the end of their college careers are going out and getting real jobs.
Right.
Teaching, maybe going on to master's level classes. So we're going to lose some people this fall. So we'll probably be hiring when we get closer to August.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Pat Peterman, Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club of Detroit Lakes, updating us on the new building that is getting ready to move in. Are you still fundraising for the building, or is that...
We are.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever stop fundraising for anything, but, we've hit that $6.2 million mark. Our goal would be 6.4. We'd like to get the acoustics in the gym, which wasn't part of the budget, the bleachers, the scoreboards, some of those things that you just don't budget for because you don't know what you're going to be able to raise. So you leave that out of there. And now that we've hit our $6.2 million, can pretty much pay for the construction of the building. Now it's filling the inside of the building.
Okay.
So we're selling the pavers, $150 for an 8x8 paver. They can get a hold of us at the club at 847-5700 or stop at the chamber, and Carrie and her staff have them there.
Okay.
or they can get a hold of me or one of my staff, and we'll get them the brochure. Sold about 70 so far. Goal would be 300. That would raise us $30,000. That would help with the Crowshire Monument and putting that together. So, yes, we are still fundraising, and if people want to give, they can certainly get a hold of me.
All right. Pat Peterman from the Boys and Girls Club of Detroit Lakes in the studio with me this morning. And there's also time still to register for the summer programming.
Yes. Glad you brought that up, Carol. They can talk to Tammy or Alyssa out at the club or out at the church where we're currently displaced at. And I believe we are doing orientation for parents on August 23rd and 25th. So they can pick one of those 2 days to come for orientation.
August or April?
I'm sorry, April.
Okay.
April.
Those
April
months.
23rd,
Okay.
April 25th.
Okay.
But we'd like to know if they're signing up their children for summer.
Okay.
It'll give us a better indication if we need more staff. I think we're good, but at least they'll give us an indication. So right now we're asking our current members if they're coming and they're filling out a sheet. Mm-hmm. But if you're a new member and want to be part of the summer program, I would recommend you give us a call now and talk to our program people, and they'll get you set up and get things going for you.
All right. So if you're looking at enrolling your child in the Boys and Girls Club for the summer, give them a call. And it's the same number, right, that it's always been.
Yep, 847-5700, and follow the prompts, and you'll get a hold of somebody.
Right. And the program is being held at True Life Church.
Correct.
Right now on 59 North as the new building is being completed. As we just heard an update from Pat Peterman from the Boys and Girls Club of Detroit Lakes. And Pat, I think the last time we spoke, it was your duty to go pick the colors and the furniture and all that kind of stuff.
Nice try.
So did that happen?
Well, we did have a meeting. We met with.
Or no, you didn't. You weren't in charge of the colors, but you were looking at the furniture.
Well, we started. You got to, like I was saying, we got to start furnishing the inside of that building. And 30,000 square feet, you don't realize with all those rooms that you need lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And so we have met with a vendor. Talking to her, and I did bring my staff with to say, you guys go through this, and we sat and brainstormed for a couple, 2-3 hours, and we should have a design hopefully by the end of this week.
Okay.
With things, and with the teen area, we're going to make it cool for the teens to want to come up. We're going to make it cafeteria or cafe style, and they'll be able to plug in their phones or their iPads or whatever, and it's just going to be a neat experience, I think. So. Doing some of that's not my thing, so I let my staff kind of have a handle on that.
Being that, so the Boys and Girls Club is a national organization, and Detroit Lakes is a local chapter,
correct.
Right? So is there anything that you have to have as, did the Boys and Girls Club nationwide program give any money or anything?
No.
Or they
dictate? They do not. We're able to absorb some marketing people. We're able to bring people and do some training for our board, for our staff. They do annual trainings on a regional and national level. Mm-hmm. It's the name brand.
Right.
So, no, they do not give money to capital campaigns. They do give funnel-through money for programs, and that's very little, but it helps. Mm-hmm. Helps our bottom line in the end. But they help fund our mentoring program, which is about $10,000 a year for both Perham and Detroit Lakes. Okay.
All right. Yeah. How are things going at the Perham location?
Perham is rock. I mean, their walls are falling down too. They're averaging about 110 kids every day. Mm-hmm. They're looking at bigger space and some possibilities over there. So their group is talking about what's out there for them and what could be some potential partnerships there for them. So we're looking into some of those things, but they're doing very well, and they got a great group of staff and advisory council over there doing their thing.
Okay. Pat Peterman from the Boys and Girls Club of Detroit Lakes, my guest this morning on Hodge Podge. Pat, we were talking to Maquette from Teach Haiti about the golf scramble coming up in June, but I suppose we could talk about the WeFest camper in August.
You bet. We did get that gig again. I'll be out searching for some sponsors for that camper this week and next. Okay. We want to start selling tickets here in April. Last year we got about a 2-month late start due to things on their end that we couldn't get done quick enough. So it was basically June before we knew we had it. So knowing now, we can start getting volunteers, we can start getting sponsors, we can start selling tickets, because that cash flow for us is very important for our budget. So yes, we are doing WeFest again. If anybody's interested, give us a call and we can fill you in. But we'll be recruiting starting now. We actually had a meeting last week with our volunteer coordinators, Lisa and Raina, who did it the last 2 years. So they know what they're doing, and we're there to help. And myself and my staff will take care of the raffle piece of it for the camper.
Okay, so gather your friends and volunteer for a great cause. You need over 200 volunteers for this. So they come out of everywhere.
They do. They do.
All right. Anything else as we wrap up this morning?
No, I think things are going well for us, and really appreciate the support of the community. The thrift store is picking up. Donations for a while there were a little slow, but I think in the last week with the weather starting to get nice, and see people starting to bring stuff again. So that's good.
All right, Pat Peterman from the Boys and Girls Club of Detroit Lakes. Thanks so much, Pat.
Thanks, Carol.
Now, back to Hodge Podge with Carol McCarthy on KDLM Detroit Lakes.
My next guests are from Becker Soil and Water Conservation District and Natural Resource Conservation Service, Ed Musilevich and Peter Mead. Good morning.
Morning, Carol.
We're going to get some updates on some of the things you've been working on. We've got soil health forum coming up, and we also township weed inspector training going on, rain garden classes, and more. Peter will be along with more on that, and Ed is going to start us off first with an update on the Farm Bill.
Yeah, so thanks, Carol, for having us. The Natural Resources Conservation Service has been busy implementing the 2018 Farm Bill. We have gotten some funds to implement practices and programs. Some of our other sister agencies, like the Farm Service Agency and Rural Development, are still in some of the rulemaking mode right now, so they don't have a lot of information. But NRCS was able to implement the Environmental Quality Incentives Program for 2018 and beyond here. We had our first sign-up deadline that ended in January. It was January 18th. Ranking and scoring ended the 1st of March. And then just last Thursday, we actually got our first round of pre-approvals. So locally, we had right around $900,000 in applications, and we're able to fund $692,000 worth of them. So quite a few of them. Statewide, there was quite a lot of interest in the farm program and in the EQIP. We had $42 million in applications statewide, with $21 million that was actually allocated to Minnesota for the first round. So there was a lot of applications that were not funded during this first round of applications. But we are having another scoring and ranking period that actually the application period ends the 19th of April. And then we're going to be ranking and scoring those for May 17th funding decisions. So leadership in St. Paul is busy looking for additional dollars, and they're going to be able to get additional dollars. Some of our first round applications may very well be funded before then. I'm not 100% certain if we're going to get that money before our next scoring deadline, but hopefully we'll be able to get that so that we can encumber those dollars. Like I said, we had right around $800,000 in applications the first round, and we have another 15 people that have come through the door since the 18th of January requesting funds. So we probably have another. We haven't really gone through anything, but probably another $200,000 to $300,000 in applications. So a lot of the applications were for ag waste type systems, erosion control systems with water and sediment control basins, and actually a lot of soil health type practices where people were implementing no-till, strip-till practices, cover crops, full season cover crops where they're going to be grazing and things like that.
All right. Ed Musilevich from the Natural Resource Conservation Service and Peter Mead from Becker Soil and Water Conservation District in the studio with me this morning. And I don't know if we want to talk a little bit about, the situation we're in now with spring and the melt, and flooding seems to be an issue all over the region. Do you deal with flooding directly, or, do these projects that people have done in the past help alleviate some of the flooding? Is that what it's supposed to do?
Certainly. And actually, just a side note, Peter and I were in Barnesville yesterday for a meeting at the Buffalo Red Watershed, and I've been up in the northern part of the county. It is amazing just how much the snow just in that 50-mile stretch has dissipated. It certainly is melting a lot faster just the little bit south that we go. Haven't really seen a lot of flood activity. I'm sure that there's going to be some township roads and things like that the culverts are going to be blocked or they're going to overtop the roads. There would be some emergency dollars that are available. And that's actually one of the things that our state leadership is talking about is if there is some projects that need to get repaired or if there's some emergency stuff that would come up because of flooding, they want to hold back some of those EQIP dollars for those types of applications. So indirectly, yes. Although directly we're not a FEMA or anything like that offering low interest loans.
Right. But if anybody wanted to access those dollars, they would go through
correct
the local office here.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Make an application. And if we're still kind of we're still kind of in the beginning stages of what's going to be happening here. So We'll just have to see over the next month or so what occurs and where we go from there with some of our dollars that we're going to get.
All right, Ed Musilevich and Peter Mead in the studio with me this morning from Natural Resource Conservation Service, Becker Soil and Water Conservation District. And Ed giving us an update on the farm program. Mm-hmm. And continuing on with Peter stepping up to the microphone here, talking about some of the other things going on, including a forum coming up now. Or you had a forum, a soil health forum that was held. I keep thinking we're in April, or I guess it was held in March.
It's the psychology of that melting snow.
Yeah, it still seems like some days we're in February, but we are in March. We're ending March, heading into April. But you had a soil health forum earlier this month.
We did, and we've got some other soil health events coming up through the year. But this year we held our third annual soil health forum. Started 3 years ago with 12 participants. It's really producer driven. We're kind of there to learn more so than to teach anything. So we've got soil health champions or local innovators or early adopters of kind of the cutting edge of soil health practices, whether it's tillage or the incorporation of livestock or utilizing cover crops, full season cover crops, as Ed was mentioning earlier. And we grew to 40 or so producers participating this year. Kind of had a focus on tillage or not tillage, as the case may be. Cover crops and diversifying crop rotations, and again incorporating livestock in operations. And one takeaway from this with the diversity of producers that we had there was kind of that soil health means something different to everyone, whether it's profitability or productivity, keeping soil in place, just planning for future generations. And everybody can learn a little bit of something from each other in this setting. So it was a huge hit. Hope to keep the event growing next year. It's become more regional than local. Of course, pulling in these soil health champions, I guess, and early adopters and even younger interested parties from about a 4 or 5 county area now. So.
Okay. So some of the things that you do along the lines of soil health is you have the forum now that has been in March, and then you have a soil health tour coming up in July. So it's kind of a full spectrum of soil health.
Right. And in July, there'll be a 2-day, 3-day excursion across part of Minnesota and into North Dakota, looking at various operations and teaching, I guess, again, learning side by side. It's producer-driven once again. 30 producers and about 20 staff would be attending, looking at some of the absolute, I guess, pioneers in cold weather soil health innovation. Anything else you would add on, I guess, what we're going to see along the way there, Ed?
Yeah, so we're going to make 2 stops the first day. We're going to be going to Robbie Olson's farm in Clay County, and he's right off of Highway 10. He's been doing no-till since the early 1980s, and his daughters are getting involved in the operation and things. And then we're going to be going to Jamestown, where we're going to be meeting with a producer who was the 2018. It was the Audubon, right? The Audubon,
the Leopold.
The Leopold Award winner there, who's been doing a lot of different soil health practices. We're going to be spending probably 2 or 3 hours at his farm touring what he's doing and talking to him about what he's been up to. And then onto the Bismarck area where there's been a lot of, the Minnewacan type farm, which is actually owned by the Soil and Water Conservation District there in Bismarck, that they've been doing soil health type practices with livestock and cropping rotations since the early 1990s. So just kind of looking at doing that. And then I think the final stopper is going to be at the Ag Research Center there in Mandan, ARS. We're going to have a tour there and things. So producers, we're looking for producers, and actually the tour would be at no cost to them. Thank you, Peter, and the Soil and Water District has really been innovative in trying to find funding for that project, and I think we're pretty close to getting everybody funded. So if there's a producer that may be interested, we're looking at 1 to 2, 3, 4 maybe producers per county to come in, looking at kind of in the Red River Basin area. So.
Okay. All right. Very good. And you have a soil health field day coming up.
Correct. So in the fall of 2019, we're going to host another field day. Actually, this will be the fourth one that we've done, fourth annual one. We're actually going to be doing something on the Bruce Nelson farm, right east of Lake Park. Bruce has been doing cover crops and no-tilling now. I think on some of his early stuff, this will be the 5th year that he's going to be no-tilling and cover cropping. But we're going to have actually a day where we're going to be looking at some nutrient management issues that he may be having on with nitrogen, and doing some side-by-side comparisons and yield stuff. So I talked to him earlier this spring, and we have a plan put together for some side-by-side comparisons on his wheat. We're going to be looking at cover crops, different types of cover crops, maybe some of the things that we haven't seen in the area as of late. Doing some weed issues as you start getting into the zero-till or direct seeding, and hopefully we'll have lunch provided by Bruce and maybe a craft beer or two for the participants that want to come in. So there's going to be more information on that. We're probably looking in late September of doing that before the beans start to get harvested.
Okay, very good. Ed Musilevich and Peter Mead in the studio with me this morning. They represent the Natural Resource Conservation Service and Becker Soil and Water Conservation District Office here in Detroit Lakes, and discussing some of the things that they've been working on and more ahead as we look toward the spring. You've got your tree and native plant sale coming up as well.
That's right. We are still taking orders. Some species are selling out pretty fast now. As spring's just around the corner. We didn't know that we'd actually see it, but we plan to have our tree pickup day May 3rd here. So things will be drifting in from the nurseries, and we'll be hard at work getting those orders ready. Have a number of tree plantings lined up, but there's still time either to line up a tree planting or just get a hold of your trees this spring. We also offer native plants and native plant kits, and those orders will be ongoing into the early summer.
Okay, very good. Some of the other things that you work on in the community is you hold Ag in the Classroom events, and that was held here in Detroit Lakes, and I guess it's going on today in Frazee.
Yes, it is going on in Frazee, and so Marianne and Lowell Jorgensen were kind of they're still organizing it every year, but we have a couple of staff that are in Frazee today. Talking to fourth graders about soils, and that's kind of a segue into what we do in the fall at the Cormorant Lake Sportsman's Club, where we actually have some soil soaker and do some experiments with different types of soils. So they're out there today talking about glaciation and how the soils in the area were formed from the glaciers, and looking at the different types of soils that we have in the county. So
right. So that's great. So kids kind of get a little bit of a hands-on experience.
That's right. That's right.
Well, and then you also do the 5th grade field trip. And I know that I remember doing this when I was way back when the earth was formed. I'm taking a trip, but this has been going on for quite a while. And I know that kids always look forward to this in 5th grade to do this field trip, because it's actually a field trip.
It is. And we're fortunate enough to be returning again to the Ike Fisher Farm near Frazee. We've got a number of staff in the office that recall when they were there as well. It's a great event. All the schools from the area are invited. I think we've got just about everybody lined up already Takes a little bit to put everything together, but it's fun. We've got rotating stations for everything from water quality to birding to forestry to logging. Ike's always great with the kids there, and you get a hands-on look at actually, cutting things in a sawmill, as well as the wonderful legacy of the Fisher family history in the area.
Right, and all the kids usually get a tree after it. Is that correct? Do they still do that?
I don't know that we've kept that up years just because of the timing.
Okay.
But Ike was always very
right.
Much pushing the planting of trees, because you can see his legacy there from over the years as they walk through the forest. So.
Right. Well, it's a great day, and I know lots of people, kids and teachers, look forward to that field trip. Some of the other things that your offices work with in the area, you train people. You have a township weed inspector training today, in fact.
That's right. So one of the things that one of the services, I guess, our office provides is we're the county weed inspector. There's also township weed inspectors. So basically every unit of government in the county, somebody's responsible for the control of noxious and invasive weeds. So there's an annual training held by our county ag inspector, Marcia Watland. That's going up in Cowley right now, as a matter of fact. And so there's 40 township officials that are all learning the ins and outs of any updates in either seed law or noxious weed law. They're kind of the eyes out there that really help us know what's going on as far as new infestations or successful control and different things that people should be aware of.
Yeah, every year it's interesting that we get updates, either from your office or the Department of Agriculture about these new invasives or weeds to look out for and affecting our crops. And sometimes they're found in ditches and, things to avoid skin contact with. And
absolutely. A wild parsnip is definitely one of the ones we like people to be aware of. We've battled spotted knapweed for years, but one thing I'm sure Marcia's filling in people today about is the spread of meadow knapweed in the county that was found, in a road ditch. And because of early discovery, because of the eyes out there, we were able to successfully really keep that in check so far and hopefully prevent it from spreading anywhere else.
All right. Peter Mead and Ed Musilevich in the studio with me this morning, talking about some of the things they're involved in. So you've got the Township Weed Inspector. Also, you're offering rain garden classes in the communities of Detroit Lakes and Frazee.
Yes, through Community Ed, we've got a April 18th class in Frazee and then a May 16th class in DL. You can just contact Community Ed for any of the details there. We've been doing these for a couple years now. We've been another thing that's been growing, been a great turnout. So I encourage anybody interested in incorporating a rain garden in their home setting, their lake setting, anything, to get in touch with Community Ed and see if they can attend. All
right. So that is going on. And also another department, so to speak, under the umbrella of Becker Soil and Water Conservation District is the ag inspector. That is under, but it's also the aquatic invasive species is another area that you handle.
The other world of invasives, yes. So it's, believe it or not, open water season is just around the corner. So it's recruiting time for us again. I'm hoping to have 30, 35 inspectors working for us or for the county out at the public accesses this year, helping people, be compliant with the laws relating to the transport of AIS and just be aware of the effects and what they can do to prevent things from moving from one lake to another. You can check those out on the county website. There's two different positions. There's a level 1 inspector that would just deal with kind of tactile inspections of boats and visiting with people at the access, and then level 2 inspectors who do hot water decontamination as well at the access sites.
It's a pretty decent job for the summer, I would say.
It's not a bad thing to be out there doing.
Right. So, so check in, and I guess down the road we'll talk more. I know Carl Koenig handles that department too, and we'll check in with him closer to the open when we do get some open water other than the standing flood water. So we'll talk more about that in the future. And I want to thank Peter and Ed for coming in today and sharing all this information with us.
Thanks a lot, Carol.
Thanks, Carol.
And that's going to wrap up Hodge Podge for today. I'm Carol McCarthy, KDLM.